The night before their weekend trip, Sarah couldn't sleep. Her husband, Daniel, was already snoring softly beside her, but her mind was racing. This trip wasn't just any getaway. It was their first couples trip with Emily and Ryan, their closest friends since college. But lately something about Daniel had felt distant. Sarah hoped the mountains, the quiet air, and the laughter of friends would help bring them close again. The next morning, as the two couples loaded their bags into the SUV, excitement filled the air. Emily handed Sarah a coffee. "Ready for an adventure?" she asked with a grin. Sarah smiled. "I need one." The drive was long but cheerful. They sang along to old songs, told stories from their 20s, and laughed until their stomachs hurt. By the time they reached the cozy cabin tucked between pine trees, the sun was setting behind the hills in gold and pink streaks. "Wow," Ryan said, stepping out and stretching. "This view makes me want to quit my job." Daniel chuckled. "Join the club." Inside, the cabin smelled of cedar and fresh linen. 2 bedrooms, a warm living room with a fireplace, and a balcony that overlooked the lake below. It was perfect. After dinner, the 4 sat around the fire, wrapped in blankets, mugs of hot chocolate in hand. Emily leaned back with a sigh. "This feels like college again. No stress, no deadlines, just peace." Ryan nodded. "Except now, we can afford the fancy cocoa." They laughed, but there was a deeper silence that followed. The kind that lingers when something unspoken floats between friends. Sarah noticed the way Ryan and Emily looked at each other, full of quiet understanding. They had been through rough patches too, she knew. But they seemed stronger now. Emily broke the silence. "You know what I think?" she said softly. "Sometimes, couples forget to talk about real things. Not just bills or plans, but dreams, feelings, fears." Sarah tilted her head. "What do you mean?" Emily smiled gently. "I mean, we could play something like a truth game. Just between us. No judging, just honesty." Ryan raised a brow. "You're serious?" Emily nodded. "Why not? We all trust each other. And maybe it could bring us closer." Daniel looked uncertain. "You mean, like personal questions?" "Exactly," Emily said. "Only what each person feels comfortable sharing." Sarah hesitated. A small part of her felt nervous. But another part, the one that missed Daniel's open laughter and warmth, felt hopeful. "Let's do it," she said quietly. They gathered on the couch, dimmed the lights, and took turns asking gentle questions. "What's your happiest memory? What's one thing you regret? What's something you wish your partner knew but never told them?" At first, the questions were light-hearted. They laughed over old crushes and silly mistakes. But as the night deepened, the tone shifted. Ryan admitted he often feared failure, that sometimes he felt Emily was too good for him. Emily, teary-eyed, reached for his hand. "You've never failed me," she whispered. Then it was Sarah's turn. Her heart pounded. "I miss how Daniel used to look at me," she said softly. "Like I was. Everything. I know we've both been busy, but sometimes I wonder if we've forgotten how to really see each other." Daniel looked down, silent. The fire crackled between them. Finally, he spoke. "I didn't know you felt that way," he said quietly. "I thought you were the one pulling away." Sarah blinked, surprised. "Me?" He nodded. "After your job promotion, you seemed so focused. I didn't want to get in your way." Her throat tightened. "I was trying to make you proud." The room fell still. Emily and Ryan exchanged a look, one of those silent ones between people who've been there. Emily set down her mug. "You two love each other. You just forgot how to show it." The warmth of the fire reflected in Daniel's eyes as he turned to Sarah. "Maybe this trip is what we needed." Sarah smiled faintly. "Maybe it is." Outside, snow began to fall, dusting the pine trees and blanketing the world in quiet calm. Emily glanced at the window, then back at everyone. You know what? Tomorrow, let's do something different. Something none of us have done before. Ryan chuckled. Like what? Jump in the frozen lake? Emily laughed. No. Something that reminds us why we chose each other in the first place. Daniel leaned forward. What are you suggesting? Emily's eyes sparkled with mischief and warmth. You'll see tomorrow. Trust me, it'll be unforgettable. The others exchanged curious looks, unaware that her simple idea would stir emotions, memories, and choices none of them expected. As the fire burned low and the last candle flickered out, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in months, hope. But she also sensed that whatever Emily had in mind might change more than just the weekend. It might change everything. Morning sunlight poured through the cabin windows, painting golden streaks across the wooden floor. Sarah woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of laughter drifting from the kitchen. Emily was already cooking breakfast. Fluffy pancakes, eggs, and the kind of aroma that made the whole place feel like home. Good morning, sleepyhead, she said as Sarah walked in. We've got a big day ahead. Sarah smiled, rubbing her eyes. You still haven't told us what this big plan is. Emily winked. You'll see soon enough. After breakfast, the four bundled up and headed outside. The air was crisp and the lake shimmered like glass beneath the pale winter sun. Ryan carried a small backpack while Daniel trailed behind, his hand brushing against Sarah's, a quiet reminder of last night's closeness. They followed a narrow trail that led to a clearing overlooking the lake. Emily stopped, turned around, and spread her arms wide. Here, she said. This is where we'll do it. Daniel frowned playfully. Do what exactly? Emily took a deep breath. We're going to write letters to each other. Honest ones. Things we might never say out loud. Then we'll read them tonight by the fire. Ryan grinned. You always come up with something deep. I just think, Emily said softly. We spend so much time talking about small things. Work, chores, plans, that we forget the things that really matter. Sarah nodded slowly. You're right. It's beautiful. They each found quiet spots around the clearing. Sarah sat on a rock by the water, the sound of the waves brushing against the shore. She stared at the blank page in her notebook. How do you tell someone you love them, but fear you've grown apart? How do you admit that even in laughter, you sometimes feel alone? Her hand trembled slightly as she wrote, Dear Daniel, I miss us. The way we used to talk for hours. The way you'd reach for my hand without thinking. I know life got busy, and maybe I did too, but I never stopped loving you. I just forgot how to show it. Tears blurred the ink, but she kept writing. If I've been distant, it's because I didn't know how to fix what I couldn't name. But I want to try. I still believe in us. By the time she finished, the sun had climbed high, and her heart felt lighter. That evening, they gathered around the fire again. Emily handed out mugs of cocoa and said, Ready to share? Ryan went first. His letter was simple but full of warmth. Gratitude for Emily's patience, her laughter, her faith in him when he doubted himself. She smiled through tears. Then it was Daniel's turn. He unfolded the paper slowly, his voice soft. Sarah, I don't say this enough. I see you. The way you fight for everything you care about. The way you hold this family together. I thought you didn't need me anymore, but now I realize I was wrong. You always did, and I always will. Sarah's breath caught. She felt his hand reach for hers again. Steady, warm, familiar. Then it was her turn. She read her letter, voice trembling at first, then growing strong. When she finished, Daniel pulled her close without saying a word. The room was quiet except for the sound of the fire, and the beating of hearts that finally understood each other again. Emily smiled. This is why I wanted us to come here. Sometimes love just needs a reminder. Ryan nodded. And good friends. The night carried on with laughter, quiet moments, and stories that made them all feel younger, lighter. Later, when everyone had gone to bed, Sarah stepped out onto the balcony. Snowflakes drifted lazily from the dark sky, landing on her hair and melting instantly. Daniel joined her, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. You okay? She nodded. More than okay. He looked out at the snowy lake. You know, I was scared this trip would make things worse. But it did the opposite. Sarah smiled softly. Maybe we just needed to stop talking around each other and start talking to each other. He brushed her cheek with his thumb. And maybe we needed good friends who remind us what love really looks like. They stood in silence, the snow falling quietly around them, the firelight flickering behind the glass door. Inside, Emily and Ryan were asleep on the couch, their hands still intertwined. 4 people, 2 couples, all a little different than they were 2 days ago. Because sometimes, it only takes one suggestion, one evening of honesty, to change everything. And that night, in that quiet cabin by the lake, love found its way back home. The end.